Thank you, and welcome to today's Candidate Forum, brought to you in partnership with City Club of Central Oregon and the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County, two organizations that are passionately nonpartisan and whose purpose today is to engage and inform Central Oregon voters for the special district election on May 18th. Our goal is to provide an opportunity for fair and impartial disclosure, to educate voters about candidates' views on issues, and to stimulate voter interest and participation in the election. Today, we are hosting the candidates for 3 of the 5 seats for Ben Park and Rec's board, positions 3, 4, and 5. These positions are elected to 4-year terms. The board of directors governs the Ben Park and Rec district. The district board of directors is responsible for developing district goals and setting policy. My name is Kim Scott, League of Women Voters past president, and I'm honored to serve as your moderator today. Today's live stream is also made possible by Connect Central Oregon, a nonprofit launched with the assistance of OSU Cascades Innovation Collab. Our sponsors for the entire series of candidate forums is G5 Digital Marketing, Miller Lumber, Brooks Resources, the Deschutes Public Library, Shearshaw's Group, and Louis Capozzi. We are grateful for their support for these educational forums. If you're interested in supporting either City Club or the League of Women Voters, please check out our websites to get more information. cityclubco.org and lwvdeschutes.org. All candidates who are in contested races are invited to participate via email and follow-up phone calls. We do not let a lack of response or an RSVP of regret cancel our forums. We appreciate the gravity of committing to run for office, and our goal is to provide an opportunity for fair and civil discourse. Thank you to the candidates who are participating in today's forum. We will start with 2-minute opening statements, then each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer questions in rotating orders. Questions are taken from the community and members of City Club and the League of Women Voters. At the end, each candidate may give a 2-minute closing statement. Our candidates today are for position 3, Nathan Hovekamp, Laura Nowierski-Stadnick, also position 3, position 4, Xavier Borja, and Robin Vora. For position 5, Deb Schoen, Elizabeth Whitey. For opening and closing statements, we have randomly selected the order. Robin Vora, you will be first for the opening statement.
Well, hello. I request your vote for board position 4. I deeply care about our community and would like the opportunity to contribute more directly as a park board member. My priorities are completing river trails and expanding Ben's trail network, future parks in underserved neighborhoods, maintaining the diversity of programs, serving all population groups, more native vegetation, and river fish passage. My dedication to Ben Parks in my 19 years here include regularly advocating for parks, trails, facilities, and recreation programs, assisting with the acquisition of 4 parks, Orchard, Canal Row, Goodrich, and Miller Landing, serving on a Park and Rec Citizen Advisory Committee, working to maintain public access to Pilot Butte, obtaining a new sidewalk around Marshall High, and improve landscaping at a Juniper Park entrance. Further, I've dedicated my time and expertise to our community in other ways. I've served on several city committees, including Urban Growth Boundary Expansion, Urban Renewal District, Transportation, and Historic Landmarks Commission. I'm on the Soil and Water Conservation District Board. I was 10 years on the Orchard District Neighborhood Association Board. I volunteered at the Tower Theater, Deschutes Land Trust, East Cascades Audubon, Habitat for Humanity. I coached youth soccer for 7 years in Minnesota. I worked 39 years for the U.S. Forest Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as a forester, ecologist, wildlife biologist, and manager in 7 states. I have master's degrees in natural resources. I'm originally from Bombay, India, and immigrated with my family when I was 13. I'm endorsed by the Oregon League of Conservation Voters and Central Oregon Labor Chapter. Thank you for considering me for the Ben Park and Recreation Board.
Thank you very much, Robin. Next, also position 4 is Xavier Borja.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for having me and providing the space. Yes, my name is Xavier Borja, but I usually just go by Xavi. I'm a first-generation Mexican-American. I'm born and raised here in Central Oregon. Bend has been home now for close to 10 years, and my background includes youth education and recreational programming, having worked for Bend Lapine School District as a mentor specialist and counselor, and also for Boys and Girls Club of Bend over on the east side through their Ariel Glen complex. And I actually used to work for Bend Parks and Rec. I used to work in the youth enrichment and sports department, supervising, leading, and co-creating various amounts of different programs through the district for about off and on 3.5 years. I personally have seen and experienced the disconnect here in Bend between our Latinx community members and specifically in the outdoors. Because of that, I decided to start a nonprofit in collaboration with 7 other outdoor stakeholders at a local and state level to create Vámonos Outside, which translates to like, let's get outside, which is where I currently work to connect, engage, and inspire our Latinx community members into the outdoor sector, again, in the Central Oregon area. I saw something that wasn't working and I took action and created a nonprofit in hopes to diversify our outdoor spaces by specifically engaging our Latinx community members. If elected, through community collaboration, my work will ensure that we are adhering to sustainable growth and building practices as Bend continues to grow, as well as creating equitable outdoor access and equitable programmatic opportunities. Looking at the strategic and comprehensive plan through a DEI lens, specifically and especially for our Latinx and other underrepresented community members, which are directly mentioned in those plans. But how can those plans be implemented when no one in that role, no one currently sits on the board with those lived experience and connections to the Latinx community as I do? With that, I'm extremely humbled for this opportunity and thank you again for this time and this space.
Thank you very much, Xavier. Nathan Hovekamp, position 3, you're next.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and City Club for sponsoring this forum. I'd like to also thank the other candidates for being here, and thank you to the viewers that are watching this recording. I'm Nathan Hovekamp. I'm running for re-election to the Bend Park and Recreation District Board, position 3. A little about me, and then maybe a little about why I'm running for re-election. I'm a biologist with work experience in college instruction, environmental conservation, and past seasonal gigs as an interpretive park ranger. I've lived in Bend for 24 years and been active for most of those years in community leadership. I was on the City of Bend Planning Commission for 8 years, the Bend Lapine School Board for 4 years, and the Bend Park and Recreation District Board now for 6 years, and I'm currently serving as chair. I believe that outstanding parks, trails, natural areas, and recreational facilities and programs are public amenities central to our quality of life and promoting health, happiness, in connection with nature. They're also shared assets contributing to an attractive and prosperous community. Their oversight requires visionary and strategic planning, as well as fiscal discipline and prioritization. I would like the opportunity to continue representing you in these efforts, working with board and staff colleagues, listening to concerned citizens, monitoring district policies and operations, and helping ensure equal access to and distribution of these amenities across the district. You can see more about what I hope to accomplish at nathanforparks.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Next, also for position 3 is Lauren Nowierski-Stadnick.
Thank you. Yes. Hi, I am Lauren Nowierski-Stadnick. I am running for Bend's Park and Recreation position 3. As a lifelong athlete, I truly understand the importance and benefits of a very robust parks and recreation system to both individuals and the community as a whole. For the past decade, I have worked as a civil law attorney for both national, international law firms, and now I am in the process of starting my own firm in downtown Bend. As an attorney, I really understand the importance of roles and responsibilities and fiduciary duties of a board member. In particular, for the Bend's Park and Recreation District, the board members serve a very important role as an advocate for the community to the Bend and Park Recreation District, and also as an advocate from the district to City Council and Bend as a city. I'd really love the opportunity to share my passion for parks and recreation with the community and to serve on the board. And I'd also like the opportunity to use my legal skills to benefit our community as a whole. In my opinion, recreation is great for everyone, and it's important that we make recreation accessible to the entire community. And I look forward to our discussion today, and I would like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank City Club and League of Women Voters for hosting, and I'd like to thank everyone who's taken the time to listen and the candidates for taking the time to run. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Next, for position 5, Deb Schoen.
Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight. And again, thank you to the other candidates and all those who are taking the time to listen. I'm Deb Schoen, and I'm running for the Board of Directors for Bend Park and Recreation District, position 5. From a very young age, parks and nature spaces were important to me. So important that I spent my 40-year public servant career as a park and recreation professional. I want to continue that service by ensuring all community members can enjoy the benefits of quality parks, trails, and natural spaces. As a child, a nearby neighborhood park allowed me to learn to trust myself and to appreciate nature as a safe place. As a family, we always had the good fortune to live within walking distance of a park, and my children learned that a few minutes outside could be the very best part of a day. A walk to a small neighborhood park was one of the first adventures I took with my new grandson. I believe everybody deserves a park and the chance to have the same special types of experiences. Through my professional experience, I've seen firsthand how park and recreation systems can support communities to be stronger and more resilient in areas of health and wellness, social equity, and conservation. My experience in recreation management, strategic planning, staff development, and financial oversight allows me the insight into the day-to-day operations of the Park District, as well as the large, more complex projects. When I was appointed to the board in this position in January of 2020, my focus was on equity and accessibility. That has not changed. At Bend Park and Rec, we have spent the last year supporting community priorities as a strong partner. There's still much work to be done to ensure that everything we offer is readily available to every person. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I feel it is a privilege and an honor to be able to share my priorities and values with you.
Much, Deb. Elizabeth Whitey, you're next with your opening statement, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Elizabeth Hughes Whitey, and first of all, thank you for having me and for this forum. It's very, very exciting. I have a background in environmental compliance. I'm a master's degree level geologist, and spent most of my career doing NEPA and CEQA work. In California, it's called CEQA, but for the federal law, it's called NEPA. Permitting and all sorts of environmental compliance, working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and all the other regulatory agencies. So my interest in serving the parks is to bring my regulatory training to the board to be able to help with expansions of parks, decisions that need to be made with agencies on things like bridges across the Deschutes River, trail expansions. I'm very interested in protecting our river corridor, our riparian habitat. One of the things that my husband and I find so exciting about Bend are the parks and how extremely well maintained they are, very accessible. There's very affordable. We spend a lot of time exercising and taking our dogs out and doing various things in the park. So again, my interest is just very personal. I'm retired and I'd like to bring my expertise to the board and be able to provide whatever I can provide to our community in terms of continuing these excellent parks that we have an opportunity to enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. We are now going to go on to our question part. Xavier, you're first. And our first question is, sorry about that. Are there things you would like to see changed in the way the Bend Park and Recreation Board does its business?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. I would love to see more specific targeted outreach. You know, especially for, again, underrepresented groups, there's a lot of efforts towards like marginalized and underrepresented groups. And I understand that they do have Katia Avila, who's the Latino outreach specialist right now. And I would love to see specifically, like for her hours be increased to be able to do that job full time. And currently that's not there. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Nathan, you're next on the first question.
Well, I certainly don't want to see people change the board members on the board since I'm running for re-election. Let's see. You know, as an environmentalist and a biologist, I care a great deal about the health of the river, the beautiful trees that we have in town and throughout our park system. This is not so much a change as kind of a renewed focus on the responsibility that Park and Rec has in the stewardship of these beautiful natural amenities. So that's always my focus on the board. I'd like to continue that focus on the board. I think my board colleagues would say that I'm maybe tiring in that respect, that I am tireless in my desire to preserve trees when we construct park projects, trail projects, and especially my desire to work on restoration of the Deschutes River banks through town. We manage close to 50% as the Park and Rec District on behalf of the public of the banks through town. And I think that points to the importance of our stewardship of that resource. And I suppose that's what I would like to say I'd like to change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Lauren, you're next. Same question.
Thank you. As far as what the board's business should change, I think there needs to be an increased transparency. I know that during COVID, the board meetings have been available on Zoom. I'd like to see that continue. I'd also like there to be better transparency into the breakdown of certain expenditures and finances. While there are annual reports, which are published online and available to the public, some of those reports are not as detailed as they can be or as they should be. In particular, with respect to the needs-based assistance programs and the scholarship programs that help benefit some of our underserved communities and children who need help financially to participate in programs. There simply just isn't that much financial information available online, and I'd like to see more of that transparency coming through on the finances. I think that's something that is definitely viable to do. We've learned that we could do it through COVID, and I think we can continue to increase that. And as a board member, I'd love to be a part of increasing that transparency for the public so people see where their hard-earned tax dollars go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Deb, you're next.
Great. Well, thank you. Actually, I'm really proud of the work that we do as a board and how we work together and how we go about setting policy. But there's always room for improvement. And one of the areas that I think we can improve, and we have been working on it, is being more engaged with the public. Our meetings are filmed, but Lauren is absolutely right. That wasn't happening before COVID. We've had discussions on the board that we would need to continue that once we go back to meeting in person. I feel that if public comments run over 3 minutes, we have the duty to sit there and listen. It's very important to me to hear what the public has to say. So for me, my short answer would be there's always room for improvement. And one of the things I love about Bend Park and Recreation District is they're in a constant state of improvement. They're continuously looking for ways. They're at the front edge on trends a majority of the time. But I would love to hear what the public thinks we should be doing better. And when we do hear from them, we act on it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Deb. Elizabeth, you're up next.
Okay, well, I have been very impressed with what the parks have been doing. I've lived in a lot of different places in this country. I'm from the East Coast, and I've lived in the Midwest, and I've lived all over California. This is the nicest park system I've ever seen. And I think one of the reasons is because the parks manages their own budget. And so they're able to set their own priorities, and they're not competing with the city of Bend for their priorities. I'd like to be involved in continuing that approach to maintaining the parks. And one of the ways I'm concerned about is with the SDC waivers being taken away, or basically money for expansion of the parks being used instead for affordable housing. And so I'd like to look at other opportunities to enhance affordable housing here in town without impacting our parks adversely, primarily also because not only are the parks wonderful and need to stay that way, but because a lot of times affordable housing involves people who aren't necessarily, they might be in apartments or townhomes, not have a great backyard. And a park is where they bring their families and their friends to have events and celebrate. And so it's really important that as our town continues to grow, that we continue to grow our parks and not cut the budget. So that, I guess that would be my highest priority. And then secondly, I have an outreach background. I am very interested in continuing public outreach.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Appreciate that. Robin, your turn for the
I also think we have a good park and recreation district, so please don't take my comments as being negative, but there are always places to improve. I also agree that our role communicating, we could play a better role communicating with the public. I served on the Orchard District Neighborhood Association for 10 years, and park staff would come in and make comments, about specific projects they were working on. But I don't recall ever seeing a board member, but I may be wrong on that. And I think, the city council members do come to the annual meetings of the neighborhood associations, and I think the park board board members could do that also. I think we could serve as a conduit for sharing information and getting feedback. I think occasionally the district holds public workshops on contentious issues. More could be done on that. I also agreed with, I think it was Lauren maybe who made the comment about remote participation combined with in-house when we get to do that, to allow more people to participate. I think social media such as Facebook could be both in English and Spanish. In terms of some of the other things, I think we could do more training of employees, modification of hiring practices, increases of minorities and ranks, and so forth with with our programs.
Thank you very much, Robin. And that we're going to go on to the next question. Nathan, you'll be first for this one. How do you think safety issues such as guns, alcohol, unpermitted large gatherings in the park should be monitored or controlled?
Oh, this is, we have policies already that are developed along these lines. There is pending legislation right now, I think at the state level, in particular around concealed carry in public spaces. I think we should conform with state law. I don't think that there's need or room for us to kind of go rogue and try and build a policy that conflicts with state law. We have an excellent park stewardship program under Jeff Hagler in our Park Services Department, with fine individuals that serve as stewards and that are well trained. We have a partnership with a security services firm, and then we also have open lines of communication with Bend Police. So I think we do a decent job with that. Again, as I'll observe often tonight, there's probably room for improvement. We do need to monitor these issues. User conflict is an issue that we deal with a lot, especially the park stewards. And I think that the most important thing is that we try not to be too heavy-handed, and that we take an educational approach and a friendly approach to resolving these situations.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Lauren, same question.
Sure, thanks. Obviously, safety is important to the park system. Safety is important to improving accessibility to the park system. Obviously, we will increase our user participation the safer that the parks are. As far as I'm aware, the Ben's Park and Recreation District currently does have regulations concerning guns in particular with respect to each park and the public spaces that are under the control of the Parks District. They should continue to monitor, obviously, any changes to state law, but my current understanding is that there are regulations in place that currently do regulate guns, and those should be continued. As far as alcohol is concerned, with respect to any events, obviously those events are subject to any permitting that is necessary under state and local law. That should continue. I believe that obviously partnerships are working, the parks work with the stewardships with the Bend Police Department, that should continue. You know, I think that, like I said, safety is super paramount to increasing and improving the accessibility of parks. It should continue. I don't think any changes at this time are necessary, but obviously as laws change, things need to continue to be monitored. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Deb, you're next.
Well, I would agree with everything that has been said before me regarding that. As you know, as a public elected official, it's our job to welcome people into our facilities. And I believe that taking an educational and informational approach to problem areas is the best way to do that. We do have policies that are designed to keep the public safe when they're in our areas. And we have ways of enforcing those. Our park steward program is excellent and does most things, most of the management through education and information. But when we do have an issue or a situation gets out of hand, we also have a very good relationship with the Bend Police Department in case that we would need their assistance. So again, you know, I feel like our primary role is to welcome individuals into our facilities, and keeping them safe is a big part of that too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deb. Elizabeth, your question?
Okay, so I'm again agreeing with everything everybody said, especially with gun control. One of the things about the safety of parks that's important to me, I spent about 16 years as a single mother in Sacramento, and there were many parks I did not feel comfortable taking my children to by ourselves. We don't face that in Bend, and I'm really, really thrilled about that. I'd like to keep it that way to the extent that we can coordinate with the police department or continue to have the park stewards involved in any kind of altercations and trying to keep things under control. But so far, Bend is a really safe place. I think that's going to change as we continue to grow. And I think we're going to have to be proactive in planning for that. And again, one of the areas that I'm more concerned about is trail use and user conflict on trails, where you have bikes, dogs, walkers, runners, children, just making sure as the trails get greater use, which is wonderful, that these conflicts don't mean that, for instance, the bicycle people are winning and we can't take our dogs on the trails. That, you know, that sort of thing, that there's some way to keep it a multi-use facility. And so anyway, and then other than that, just continue to be in compliance with existing regulations.
Thank you very much. Robin, your question?
I also agree with all the statements I've heard so far. I think, you know, safety is paramount for use of our parks and trails. I think we do need to follow state direction on gun safety, gun use, or concealed weapons. I know that's being debated in the state legislature at the moment. I think we should be in sync with the city and in terms of how we enforce laws and regulations and have a good partnership there. I agree with not being heavy-handed, and environmental education in general, environmental education are important in that respect. When I think about, facilities need to be safe. I mean, I tipped over in the Colorado Rapids among a big raft of kayaks and floaties, and I survived anyway, but that's the only thing I could think of that I've seen was maybe, there was a lot of people. And I agree with the mountain bikes. They can, we do need to be careful that we don't, as the trails get more and more crowded, we're going to have to look at what we're going to do about bikes versus runners versus walkers and all that.
Unmuting. Hi, thank you very much, Robin. Zavi, your turn.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I mean, everyone said everything so well. It's so hard to kind of piggyback off of what everyone said, but I think the trend that we're hearing is ensuring safety and that we're ensuring collaboration, whether it's at the state level, having an understanding of what's going on, and then having that trickle down to a local level, whether city council or other governmental entities, ensuring that we're on the same page as and with them. And I think Nathan mentioned that, our park stewards do an amazing job already, continuing that collaboration with the police force and the security guards. I mean, they're there all the time. I mean, my cousin serves as one of the security folks, so they go down to all the parks. And so again, they're there all night, park stewards throughout the day, just ensuring that continues to happen. And, as folks had mentioned, Bend is growing. Like, that's something we know. And it's just going to take a proactive approach as opposed to reactive, and seeing those trends and working now to understand these trail congestions or groups that are gathering in large amounts to hopefully traffic them to other areas.
Thank you very much, Zavi. Now on to the next question. Lauren, you're going to be the first to answer this one. The pandemic has affected all of our lives. Deschutes County will be on extreme risk level restrictions again starting April 30th. What do you believe the Bend Park and Rec should do with this information?
Obviously, it's an unfortunate situation that we are now facing, going into another extreme level. I know that there are a lot of people who are very frustrated with this. And I know it's not the first time that we've sort of regressed as far as progress goes on the pandemic. I think, unfortunately, the Bend's Park and Rec has some, plans in place as far as keeping in touch with state guidelines as to what can be open and what cannot be open. Unfortunately, I think the right answer is that we need to continue to adhere to those guidelines as put out by the governor. This is not one of those going rogue situations. Unfortunately, public health is super important. Obviously, mental health is also really, really important. And I think that we're only beginning to see the mental health effects of the pandemic on our community. And so as far as parks go, there are still a lot of opportunities here to continue with hiking, biking, dog walking, etc. in the parks during these extreme risk level times. Obviously, as we continue to get vaccinated, hopefully this extreme level will sort of subside quicker than it has in the past, but we need to be ready for it to continue. And sort of we need to continue to promote those activities that can still go on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Deb, your question.
Great, thank you. Well, the Park District has, from the very beginning, listened to state guidelines and mandates, and then done their very best to interpret them as well as they could to ensure the safety of community members, and also to be able to provide as many recreation and health and wellness opportunities as they could. Lauren mentioned the mental health aspect of it, and our first board meeting back in March well over a year ago, the mental health aspect of it was brought up. And from the very beginning, we did what we could. We left our restrooms open. We upped our daily cleaning because everything was closed down, and delivery drivers and persons experiencing homelessness didn't have facilities. And then from then on, it has always been a balance, not a balance, but we have always followed the state mandates and the governance, but done every bit as much as we could to provide opportunities, and the trails are a really good example of that. We took staff that was laid off from facilities and put them on the trails, monitoring and becoming temporary park stewards. So we will follow the guidelines as they come out again.
Thank you very much, Deb. Elizabeth, your question?
I just heard today, as I'm sure everybody else did, about us going back to the extreme level, which is disappointing. But again, I think that the Bend Parks and Rec has done an excellent job of handling the pandemic restrictions so far. And I'm sure they will continue to do that. One of the things that they've done when they reopened the Larkspur Community Centers and the other centers, they've set up a reservation system. And at this point, I'm taking swimming classes over there, or not classes, but swimming exercise. Everything's very, very, very well controlled. You register online, you show up, your name is on the list. There's 2 people there counting heads, making sure that there's the right number of people in the pool, that sort of thing. Very well controlled, very well managed. And then I'm also working at I'm a master gardener, and I'm working at the Holland's Head Garden this summer. And we're doing the same thing in that Bend Parks and Rec facility, where we'll have a limited group of people being able to come in and garden at each time. So every day, the day is divided into a schedule, so the gardeners can come in for 2-hour slots to make sure that we can maintain the separation. So I think that they've done a great job of establishing these regulations or these rules within the parks, and I think that just continuing that until we get through this pandemic is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Robin, your question?
I agree that public health is very important, and I don't think we have any choice but to follow, state guidelines. But I also agree that mental health and exercise are very important. And I was really glad, and I'm glad the Parks District has been able to keep, the trails and parks open. I know last spring, the National Forest shut down, in April in response to the pandemic, but the Bend Park did keep the parks open, and I was glad for that. And I think people appreciated that. And I think, I guess the restrictions or the guidelines, the ways of coping with the pandemic has resulted in the shutdown of facilities and many of the programs. That's been a huge, besides being a disservice and not being available for residents to enjoy, it has also been a huge cost to the Park District. They've had to lay off people, and they've also obviously had to reduce programs. And it'll take a little while to recover. We need money for other things, such as we've talked about Latino outreach or special programs for underserved people, but that money has to come from somewhere. So it's unfortunate that has to happen, but hopefully we'll be over this soon and be able to move forward.
Thank you very much, Robin. Zabi, you're next with the question.
Thank you. I think it's, for lack of better word, it's a bummer, but I think that's the reality that we're in. And, the Parks District, as well as a lot of entities, they get their guidelines at the governor's level, state level, and then we go to local level. And then it's up to the individual entity to be creative. And I think that's what we have seen with the Park District do at a high level. And it's something that we're going to have to go back to again. I think Elizabeth spoke to the reservation system. It's working really well. So it's going to continue to be that, maybe at a more extreme or tightened level. And I think we've also seen the one-way traffic, on larger trails or high usage trails. So that way to reduce congestion, to reduce people gathering, as well as, like, I don't know if I've been to a park where I haven't seen, 6 feet of distance, where I haven't seen, using the mask and just ensuring that we're continuing to adhere to these guidelines that are, that's our kind of our new normal right now. So it is unfortunate to a lot of those levels where we're losing funding, mental health is suffering, we're not able to enjoy the amenities at the level that we wish, but it's going to continue to take creativity and collaboration as we hopefully move forward or move past this or learn to live with this, I guess.
Thank you very much, Zabi. Nathan, your question?
Well, Zabi got it. It's a bummer. I'm sick to death of the pandemic, like I know everybody is. I wear glasses, and so when I wear my mask and my glasses, I never mastered it, so they fog up, of course, immediately, and I'm walking around blind. My other choice is to take my glasses off, in which case I'm also blind. Anyway, we had to, Park and Rec had to lay off or furlough hundreds of employees because of the pandemic, and cancel or postpone programs and temporarily close facilities. I never again want to see yellow caution tape wrapped around playgrounds all around the district, and parents and children having to walk away disappointed. It is true that we were able to keep parks and trails open with some precautionary protocols, and we saw just how especially important these open public spaces are in this kind of situation, where people could still go out again with proper safety protocol and enjoy nature and open space and fresh air. And I guess I'll just say, let's continue to be patient. We're so close, and you wait. When we start reopening all of our facilities, all of our parks, and all of our programs, it's just going to be fantastic.
Yes, it will. Thank you very much, Nathan. Deb, you get to first on this new question. Would you support continuing to reduce the Park and Rec fees in order to support affordable housing if elected to the board? What would you consider before arriving at your decision?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this again. This has been a very thoroughly discussed issue. I am really proud of the work that we have done on affordable housing and the support that we've been able to offer in that areas. As you probably know, we had 400 waivers that we had approved with a sunset in December of 2022. And when the city came to us and said that they needed more and that it was a high priority, we met again and not only added an additional, I believe it's 75 per calendar year of waivers, but we also waived fees for temporary and emergency shelters as well. Having said that, it's really a balance between doing what we are supposed to do and what we've been charged with doing, of providing open spaces, parks and trails to the community. And that funding comes from STCs. And if we harm ourselves by by giving away that revenue stream, we are going to hurt residents, and probably residents who are already underserved as far as the neighborhood park. So, when it comes up again, because I think it will be a long and thorough discussion.
Thank you very much, Deb. Elizabeth, your question?
Yes, yeah, I feel pretty strongly about this one. I think that as a town grows and has all sorts of needs associated with growth, including affordable housing and housing for the homeless and that sort of thing, we have to be responsible about the growth. And the idea of growing, and in order to do that and handle the growth issues, taking away from the parks just doesn't sit well with me. My feeling is that the parks are part of the infrastructure of our town, and just like you wouldn't, it's not a great idea to let the town continue to grow and grow and grow and not expand the schools and not expand the roads and not expand the wastewater treatment plants and the land disposal. The same thing is true with the parks. If we take away from our parks as we grow, we're overall coming up with a negative. And I understand that, it's a balance, like Deb said, about making sure that we've taken care of all of our citizens with affordable housing. But I also think that there's some responsibility there with the development community of making sure that they're looking at all of their avenues for getting their projects funded. And I also think that we should do a better job of discussing what goes into the SDCs and what the SDCs are actually for, so that the public understands how important it is that they're not utilized.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Robin, your question.
Yeah, the public repeatedly says in Bend that their two biggest issues are traffic congestion and affordable housing. I think park and trails would be on that list if we didn't have a good park and recreation district. While affordable housing is a major problem, people who live in affordable housing will need parks. I believe access to the outdoors is a basic need and, not just icing on the cake. The priority for Park and Rec SDC funds should be acquisition and development of needed parks and trails. Without SDCs, present residents would bear a greater portion of the cost of growth. At the Park and Rec's December board meeting, I suggested the district waive SDC charges for affordable housing affordable housing units in mixed use, some commercial and some housing, or mixed income housing within Bend's core area in close proximity to public transit. It'd be great if people could live and work in the same area and not drive as much. I think we're better off integrating neighborhoods and not having large concentrations of low-income housing, especially around the periphery of the city. I also suggested at that board meeting that the Park and Rec district waive system development charges for any facility that serves homeless or other vulnerable populations, as Deb mentioned, and the board adopted that policy. So I championed more services to vulnerable populations in the guiding documents when I was a member of the core area urban renewal district advisory board. I think
your time is up. Thank you very much, Robin. Zavi, your turn on that question.
Can you repeat it? I just want to make sure that I'm getting it correct because this is a very debated topic. I think you're muted. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Anyway, would you support continuing to reduce the Park and Rec fees in order to support affordable housing if elected to the board? What would you consider before arriving at your decision?
Thank you. It's a great question. I think as Deb mentioned, what we're talking about is a healthy balance, because some folks could argue that it's almost counterintuitive if we're waiving fees and then understanding that those SDC fees are used for growth, for new facilities and or expansion of facilities that we have. And again, that's very difficult to put in place. And so again, I am in support, but I think what we need to take a deeper look at is using the lens of intentionality. So understanding where those fees are being waived and who they're being waived for. So for example, like Habitat for Humanities, like nonprofit organization facilities, what are they giving back to the community? Because again, when we do waive these fees, those funds have already been allocated for other projects. And so when we waive these fees, we aren't able to provide those amenities which the Parks District is meant to be and meant to do. We do play a role in that. And again, I think it's just ensuring that we are very intentional when and where we're waiving those fees at.
Thank you very much, Zavi. Nathan, your question?
Well, we did.
So a sufficient housing supply and affordable housing are major challenges that we face in Bend. It's a community-wide problem. I think Park and Rec can play a part in that. SDCs, or system development charges, also called growth impact fees, could be and are being waived by the Park District entirely for affordable housing. We have also reduced SDCs for multifamily residential housing, apartments and such. We have put a lot of work into reworking our SDC methodology to make it more progressive. That is, charged on a per square foot basis so that larger, more expensive homes pay greater SDCs, smaller, more affordable homes pay smaller system development charges. But fairness is an issue here. People in the community that have seen the tremendous growth that Bend has seen over the last years and decades believe that growth should pay its way. And we also need to make sure that waivers given to affordable housing are actually passed on to the people that need it most, and not simply a windfall for developers. It is important that this is recognized as a major funding mechanism for us to be able to continue to maintain our levels of service. So it is a balance issue, and I think we're getting there, and we will continue to work on this issue.
Thank you, Nathan. Lauren, your question?
Thanks. The issue of affordable housing is an important one, and it's a complicated one. As far as do I support for waiving SDC fees for affordable housing? I think the answer is yes, but and the but that I will say is that it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg problem. Parks and a strong parks district encourages people to build affordable housing, and affordable housing to be built also sometimes requires the waiver of certain fees. I think how we've historically done it over the past couple of years, we are, as Nathan said, moving towards a more progressive approach and sort of modifying how we apply the fees. But I think we can do more, and I think we can do better. I think with respect to sort of these blanket numbers, like for example, 400 waivers a year, I don't necessarily support that. I think that there should be different criteria that are applied to doing it. And I know that the numbers aren't like, we're always going to give 400, but I think it needs to be a little bit more pliable than that. I think the criteria have been becoming more pliable, but I think ultimately we need to make sure that the affordable housing is not only just passed on to the individuals who need the affordable housing, but that the waivers are given to developments that are intending to maintain that affordability and not just have it affordable for now and not affordable later. So in short, it's a complicated issue, but I think we need to do better.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Elizabeth, you're first for the next question. Several groups in Central Oregon are promoting the planting of native plants to improve pollinator habitat, reduce water consumption, and beautify our natural areas. Would you support working with these groups to implement this in the parks?
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a master gardener with the OSU Extension Program, and we have a very strong native plant and water-wise program and a pollinator program. And so I would be very interested in both the educational component of that within the parks and also in the community in general. The woman who leads that program, Amy Jo Detweiler, is also very interested in outreach to the community and outreach through the parks. She's got a collaborative relationship with the parks that are ongoing with the new Alpenglow Park. There's going to be a water-wise garden, demonstration garden there. We have a water-wise garden over at the Holland's Head. And so, yes, I'm super interested in that. And one of the ladies that I work with over at the Master Gardening Program is also an expert in bugs, and so she's trained us all on the proper plants to have in your yard for the birds, the butterflies, the bees. So it's a really very proactive, ongoing program right now in Bend, and I would be thrilled to share that with the parks in more than we're already doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Robin, your question.
Yeah, one of the priorities I listed in my introduction, for why I'm running, is more native vegetation in parks. I'd like to see us monitor the use of all our lawns and sections that are not used heavily, be restored to native vegetation and thereby use less water too. I do support wildlife habitat, native wildlife habitat, native plants. I've been a member of the Native Plant Society. I'm presently in the Orchard District, involved with folks on 3 roundabouts, trying to plant pollinator habitat at the 3 of them. And so, yeah, well connected with this. Communicate periodically with Amy Jo Detweiler and other people on this. And yeah, I can't think of what more to say other than I think it's a good idea. And the water-wise demonstration gardens are great. We could use more of them, get more people, especially with all the people coming into Bend from outside, not familiar with our vegetation. It's a great educational opportunity.
Thank you very much, Robin. Zavi, it's your question.
Thank you for that. I love that question. Yes, 100%. Yes. Get all the pollinators in. I think folks have mentioned, you know, education. To me, that's the first thing that comes to mind, is we're able to get youth involved in. That's exciting. We talk about bees, we talk about butterflies, all these different things that, you know, I think we can bring youthful energy into from an elementary or whoever partners we're including in this, because then that creates stewards of the environment, right? We want folks, we want kids, we want all patrons to care about our parks, about our spaces. And this is just an extra added way to get that buy-in, to build that connection to that. And I think, you know, a lot of folks here are really conservation and nature focused, you know, I think, which is great. But again, for folks that maybe aren't so sure, like, you know, pollinators and having natural spaces allows for stable soil, right? It improves water quality. There's a lot of added benefits to the natural spaces by adding this. But again, for me, it just allows for more education and more buy-in for the community at large, and 100% support.
Thank you, Zavi. Nathan, your question?
I'll say first that I pioneered xeriscaping in Bend when I dried up and killed my yard, and then followed up by landscaping with empty beer cans. So I was on the forefront of water conservation in Bend, but I've since stepped up my game a little bit in the yard. Planting of native plants is critically important because, of course, it does prop up and support populations and species of pollinators. We know that flowering plants, forbs, their populations are declining globally, especially in the Northern Hemisphere. Invertebrate and vertebrate pollinator populations are also declining. And of course, this sends ripples throughout the ecosystem. We do have a program of water conservation in the district. We also have an integrated pest management program where we try to reduce the use of pesticides. And I agree that we can do with less maintained turf and more naturalized areas. It turns out that a lot of people prefer just an open area with native vegetation. Children love to play on native logs and rocks, and it's a lot less expensive to maintain and has less of an impact on the environment.
Thank you, Nathan. Lauren, your question?
Thanks. Kim, can you please repeat the question?
Happy to do it. Several groups in Central Oregon are promoting the planting of native plants to improve pollinator habitat, reduce water consumption, and beautify our natural areas. Would you support working with these groups to implement this in the parks?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for repeating. My answer is absolutely. I think we need to form more partnerships in order to continue to improve the pollinators. I know that the lack of these native plants in some cases have, obviously reduced certain populations, and not only bees and other pollinators, but also birds and other animals. And so I would love to see, as Zavi pointed out, the educational aspect of it, to educate not only the new residents of Bend, but the youth in sort of what roles do each of these plants play. It would be nice to have, more little like trails, like nature trails that sort of explain, this is a native plant. It's really easy to put together. We have a few of them. I think we can have more in working with these groups, especially. I think, as Nathan pointed out, one of the greatest aspects of planting native plants, as opposed to turf or other large irrigated fields of grass, is the cost benefit here. Obviously, an easy way to reduce the cost of large open landscapes is to plant native plants. It is a lot cheaper than putting in and maintaining grass, especially in our climate. So my short answer is yes. And I think these are great opportunities to teach the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Deb, your question?
Thank you. Absolutely. And I can't imagine anyone wanting to serve on the Bend Park and Rec Board who would answer no to that question. But again, Bend Park and Rec keeps that at the forefront of their mind. They are doing more native plantings and less highly maintained flowered areas. I believe we are partnering with the Pollinator Pathways group in town. And the community gardens also are another wonderful way to attract birds and butterflies and pollinators. I'm a big advocate of natural play spaces and not putting up great big plastic structures, but using rocks and logs. The children enjoy it every bit as much, if not more. And it is not only a savings in cost, but it is a savings of, fossil fuel. So short answer, yes, we do have several programs in place. We have equipment that keeps our water usage at a minimum. As Nathan mentioned, the pesticide we have discussed a number of times in the past year and a half and trying to reduce that. So it's at the forefront of all our minds, and absolutely I would be in support of more programs.
Thank you very much. This will be our last question of the question part, and Robin, you're first at this one. How do you feel about transgendered individuals coaching or playing on park and rec teams? Would you have any restrictions for these individuals using any of the park and rec facilities or services?
No. I would follow guidelines that the school district and the state and the city are using and be in partnership on this issue. But I think we need to follow through and enable everybody to be to use parks, to use programs. Be fair to everybody.
Thank you very much, Robin. Zavi, your question?
Can you restate the question, please?
Certainly. How do you feel about transgendered individuals coaching or playing on park and rec teams? Would you have any restrictions for these individuals using any of the park and rec facilities or services?
Thank you for that. No and yes. I think everybody has the same and equal right to that. We are an equal right opportunity program for all individuals, for every patient, for everybody. And it's our job to ensure that that happens and make inclusive programs, inclusive opportunities throughout the district for any and everybody. We need to learn and we need to grow as a community and as a whole.
Thank you very much, Zavi. Nathan, your question?
I think that Bend Park and Recreation should be a model of acceptance, inclusion, and diversity in all that we do. And I think that we should not just pay lip service to that, but live that commitment. We are an agency that embodies fun, physical activity, health, and connection to nature. None of those are inherently exclusionary. I think we need to embrace everyone. And again, I think we should model acceptance and love. And I think that that should be threaded throughout everything that we do.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Lauren, your question?
As many of those who came before me said, inclusivity is everything. I think we need to be very inclusive in making sure that everyone feels welcome in our parks, in our recreation programs, and that includes transgendered individuals. They should be able to participate in sports. They should be able to participate as coaches. I feel very strongly, and as a female athlete, I know that these issues have come up a lot recently across the country, and I think that Bend should set a model in being extremely inclusive. I don't think there's any threats by transgendered individuals. I welcome everyone, and I want to make sure that everyone feels safe, feels accepted, feels welcome in our park system, regardless of gender, regardless of any circumstances. Parks have tremendous abilities to heal, to connect people, to bring them together. And I think we need to make sure that that's available to everyone.
Thank you very much. Deb, I believe your question.
Great, thank you. True to the philosophy of public parks and recreation is the idea that all people, no matter their gender, identity, sexual orientation, have access to quality programs and facilities, places and spaces that make their community great. Those who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or even questioning, historically have faced discrimination, often in the form of offensive comments, threats, or harassment. But I feel that park and recreation agencies are uniquely positioned to offer inclusive spaces, places, and programs, and provide welcoming support. Park and recreation agencies meet the needs of the LGBTQ community through a variety of programs that don't have any rules about identity. Health and wellness programs, group exercise programs, outdoor adventure programs, creating and welcoming inclusive facilities that provide safety and comfort to the LGBTQ community. In my opinion, upholding the true spirit of sports, and I'm not an athlete, Lauren, requires promoting the inclusion of all youth in sports, no matter how they might identify. Our job is to coach and educate children in youth activities, not judge them.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth, your question?
I was wondering, just to make sure I understand the question, could you repeat it one more time?
I would be happy to. How do you feel about transgendered individuals coaching or playing on park and rec teams? Would you have any restrictions for these individuals using any of the park and rec facilities or services?
Okay. Yeah, I feel very strongly, again, about this issue. My daughter is gay, and all of her friends are either trans, they're all in the gay community, let's put it that way. So I've been involved in this, especially as youth, pretty much the whole time I was raising her. And the discrimination against children who are already struggling with that issue is unacceptable. I think that one of the things that's really odd to me about calling out this in a sports and a parks and rec environment is that why would we even think about discriminating about children in a situation like this? The other thing is, again, like the bathroom rule. It's ludicrous. And I happen to be originally from North Carolina. And so I've tried to explain to many people about this bathroom situation that a transgendered person is a person who has, let's say it's a woman who, if it's a mature woman, now looks like a man. And so you're not going to want a man coming into your daughter's bathroom, correct? So I think it's it's education. People need to understand what's going on. Fortunately, we're open enough that we can talk about this now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, keep your mic on. We will now go into the closing remarks. And Elizabeth, you're first for your 2-minute closing remark. Thank you.
Thank you. No, this has been great. I've really enjoyed all of the questions and participating with this group. As I mentioned earlier, my specific interest in working with the parks is to bring in some of my environmental expertise in terms of working in wild and scenic rivers. In terms of my experience in Northern California was primarily doing bridge rehab and replacement. So I'm very familiar with river issues and riparian habitat and all the sensitive species that live in the rivers and around rivers. But now that you've mentioned all these questions, I find I have a lot of other ideas about the parks, like bringing in the interest about the native plants. I formed a Firewise committee here in my neighborhood, and we've been certified by the Firewise USA organization. And so that ties very directly into native plants, getting rid of the very flammable plants. So it's as I'm talking with you guys, I'm realizing there's a whole bunch of other things that I'm interested in that I could bring into this park situation. And then the other thing about is the diversity, not only the gender issues, but at Sac State, I got a master's degree in counseling, and I was working with low-income first-generation students, trying to help them stay in college because a lot of those freshmen had a lot more issues than children who had parents who'd gone to college. So anyway, there's a lot of things that I'm really, really interested in this intellectually, and I just think it's would be a tremendous opportunity to give back to our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Next, Deb, for your 2-minute closing.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the opportunity to speak here this evening. Electing the right candidate at the local government level has a significant impact on the daily lives of community members. With my extensive experience in areas of recreation management, strategic planning, community engagement, and resource allocation, I'm very familiar with complex issues that face the Park District and the work that goes into building collaboration to solve these problems. My work with the National Recreation and Park Association has allowed me the opportunity to visit park and rec agencies in more than 20 states, and what we have here is among the best. When working to grant accreditation to other park organizations, I see firsthand what is working really well within a community and how vital public input is to successful planning and projects. I serve on the Mountain Star Relief Nursery Board of Directors, and this organization works with our most vulnerable and challenged families. And I want to offer a park and rec system where these families feel welcome and see a park as a safe place to gather. I'm really proud of my experience, and I want to offer my service and knowledge to our community. If you have any more questions or would like more information about my campaign, you can visit my website at debforben.com or contact me directly through email at debdshone@gmail.com. Again, thank you. And thank you to Elizabeth for being a formidable opponent. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to her, and thank you again.
Thank you very much, Deb. Zavi, your turn for your 2 minutes.
Yes, just extreme gratitude. Thank you again for this opportunity and for putting this platform together for all of us. I'd like to take this time to just share some of my current experiences and community involvement that I think would be very beneficial to the board and that I am personally most proud of. I'm a board member for the Latino Community Association, as well as the Heart of Oregon Corps. I'm able to serve currently on the River Plan Focus Group, which is the River Access and Habitat Restoration Plan on behalf of BPRD. I co-chair the Children's Forest of Central Oregon's Equity Committee. I'm on the Deschutes Trails Coalition Steering Committee, and I've also been able to serve on the Governor's Task Force for the Roadmap to the Outdoors, as well as her Environmental Equity Committee, Governor's Racial Justice Council. And although all these boards and committee experiences have been extremely helpful in my personal learning and growth as a person and a professional, what truly brings me to the table is my lived and personal experience as a Latino in Central Oregon. I know what it's like not to have access to programs. I know what it's like not to have access to green spaces, which is why I now walk students from Pine Mill Apartments across 3rd Street in order to get them to that green space, that being Kiwanis Park, in order to grant them that social emotional aspect of life and the amenities of beautiful green spaces, which are provided by the district. For more information about myself, my campaign, and the folks who support me, please feel free to visit zaviforbend.com. Again, that is zaviforbend.com. And I would also like to thank, Robin Vora, who's also been a very formidable, opponent. And it's been such a great learning experience as I continue on this journey. Thank you to City Club. Thank you, League of Women Voters. And thank you all for your time. Good night.
Thank you, Zavi. Robin, your turn for your 2 minute.
Well, I've also appreciated getting to know all the folks here. They're all good people. It's been a real pleasure, and I look forward to participating with whoever wins on the board, and hope everybody else continues to participate. I'll touch briefly on a couple of things that we haven't spent much time on. I think the district has long held a therapeutic recreation programs for disabled residents. I think that's important. I volunteered on a raft trip to assist special needs 15 years ago. I think trail connections are a real challenge. When I was on the Urban Growth Advisory Board, I very much supported the Hawthorne overcrossing and better undercrossings at Franklin and Newport. I think the Mirror Pond, the Newport Avenue Dam needs fish passage. I don't support public funding of dredging. I think that pond is stabilizing. So more generally, I care deeply about our parks, trails, and recreation programs. I think community service is important, and I've long been involved in the community in many ways, including serving on a number of committees on the board and the Orchard District Neighborhood Association. I believe I can use my professional natural resource management and volunteer experiences to make significant contributions in park, trail, and recreation program management. As I mentioned in my introduction, I've been closely involved at a citizen level many times with Bend Park and Recreation over the last 19 years. As a board member, I would really look forward to being more deeply involved, more deeply engaged in all aspects of district programs, and hope to make a significant contribution to the district and my community. So thank you for considering me for Bend Park and Recreation.
Thank you very much, Robin. Lauren, your 2-minute last statement.
Thank you. We find ourselves now in a unique position in the year 2 of a global pandemic with unprecedented growth here in Bend. I think over the next 4 years, we were going to have opportunities to make impactful decisions that are not just going to impact us, but are going to impact our kids and our grandkids and future generations to come. I'd love to share my problem-solving skills, my research skills, and my passion, my true dear passion for parks and recreation with our community in serving on the board. It would honestly be an honor. I truly believe, and I hope that you've gotten that from our discussion here today, that recreation is important for everyone, and it should be for everyone. And as a board member, I do my best to make sure that the community is as inclusive as possible and that we are promoting opportunities for everyone as widely as we can. I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to listen to this recording today. Thank you for taking the time to make rational voting decisions. I'd like to thank everyone, including Nathan and everyone else who's running, for running and for offering your opinions. It's a great group. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and City Club for hosting this forum and for giving us the opportunity in a pandemic. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I think. I think everything comes down to what the community thinks, and community input is so important, and we need to do better with community input. And I'd like to invite anyone who's listening and anyone who has opinions on the Park and Recreation District to contact me. I have a website also, it's laurenforbend.com. You can contact me there. I also have an email address, lauren@laurenforbend.com. I'd invite any questions, comments, concerns, no matter how big or how small. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love your support on May 18th. Thank you.
Nathan, your question, or not your question, your statement. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'd like to say thanks to the League of Women Voters and City Club again for this wonderful forum. Thank you to all of the other candidates here. We really can have political discourse that is civil and substantive, can't we? And I'd like to thank the millions of viewers that I know are going to view this recording. Again, I'm Nathan Hofkamp, and I'm running for re-election to the Bend Park and Recreation District Board, position 3. I would like to continue working as a volunteer board member, representing you and providing for, one, a fair distribution of parks and trails across the community, affordable access to programs, and the long-term financial stability of the district. 2, I would like to continue representing you in providing for excellent recreational facilities and programs that promote health and happiness across our community. Like many other families in Bend, my kids grew up in park and rec soccer, basketball, swimming, and art station classes. I will continue to support an array of recreational opportunities for all ages and abilities that exemplify the district's slogan, Play for Life. 3, I would like to continue representing you in providing for and protecting our beautiful parks, trails, and natural areas. Riley Ranch Nature Reserve and Shevlin and Sawyer Parks, these are crown jewels of the community. But often, just small naturalized pocket parks can be refuges for quiet reflection and observing wildlife. I will continue to focus on careful stewardship of these treasured public properties. Please visit nathanforparks.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan. And thank you all for your thoughtful answers and being so wonderfully civil to all of your fellow candidates. You guys were wonderful. Thank you. Now, I have a few things to say. Thank you to the candidates for participating in today's forum. And thanks to the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County and City Club of Central Oregon for partnering to get this information out. Remember, if you enjoyed today's forum and would like to help cover the cost, please consider making a donation to City Club on their website at cityclubco.org. And if you are interested in becoming a member or making a contribution to the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County, please contact them through their website at lwvdeschutes.org. Thanks again to our candidate forum sponsors, G5 Digital Marketing, Miller Lumber, Brooks Resources, the Deschutes Public Library, Shearshaw's Group, and Louis Capozzi. Without their support, we would not be able to bring you forums that make and keep democracy strong. The next candidate forum, featuring the Redmond School District 2J Board of Candidates for positions 3 and 4, will air on May 3rd at 5:30 p.m. The candidates forum for the other 2 board positions for Redmond School District, positions 1 and 2, will air on May 4th at 5:30 p.m. Both forums will be posted on the City Club of Central Oregon YouTube channel. Links for all of the forums will be available on the League of Women Voters of Deschutes.Oregon website. Thank you for your interest and in keeping democracy alive. This was pre-recorded at an earlier time. Thank you for watching.